known each other quite a while.
And I think since 2015. So yeah.
Yeah, we're setting up to record here. I want to make sure we catch all of this. So let's go back to the beginning. Actually, prior to when we met, Duane, I want to hear about the genesis for starting Seasonal Roots, because I missed that. I met you after you started, and for the viewing audience, now live and in the future, talk about what Seasonal Roots is.
Yeah, so Seasonal Roots is a digital farmers market. Our goal is to provide the best produce and other goods that you really get at a farmer's market to our members in a way that's very convenient for them. So we home deliver. That's all we do. And it's a seasonal journey because every week things are changing. You're getting new items. Like right now, peaches are really in season and apples are a couple of weeks away. That's a good example. I started Seasonal Roots because I was going to farmers markets myself, and I saw that there was a need for farmers to have another source of income. If you talk to the farmers at farmers markets, they're making it, but it's very, very hard.
So you saw the need with the farmers, and did you see a need with consumers as well? I mean, was it both sides that you could see?
Yeah, because if you think about the stereotypical suburban mom, who really wants to eat healthfully, 100% of our customers cook, and so they're looking for really the best ingredients they can get to feed their families, and so they want things that are fresh. They want things that are not, coming from 2,000 miles away. They're looking for things that are lightly sprayed or not sprayed at all with pesticides and herbicides. And it's hard. It's hard to go to a farmer's market and trust that what you're getting there isn't coming out of a box that came from California. There's a lot of that goes on at farmers markets. It's hard to get there and know if the chicken eggs that you always get are going to be there. They might not have come, or they might already be sold out by the time you get there.
So you started this, you live in Virginia. You started this in Virginia. And so this was very much a regional play, but you've expanded. Talk about kind of the evolution of your business.
Yeah, we really started we're in Richmond, Virginia. That's where we're running. But we thought we were going to go north and start moving into DC and then move into Baltimore and Philadelphia. But we deliver in a very unique way. We don't have trucks that go to your home. Our last mile is solved with mainly members. I mean, it's mainly moms that are ordering from us, and then they find out what we're doing and they want to help. So if you go up in Maryland, we have a truck that goes up there, but these people come and they pick up the produce and they go off and they deliver in their neighborhoods. So we were like, okay, we're not going to Philadelphia. We're going to Cleveland. We're going to Indianapolis. We're going to these towns that are mainly suburbs, Charlotte, Atlanta. So we shifted. And right now we're up in the communities, the suburban areas around DC. We're not in DC. We're all here in Richmond, and you can go over to the beach, Virginia Beach and Williamsburg and places like that.
So when people hear farmers market, they think small, mom and pop.
Yeah.
This is not a small business. Can you give an idea of the magnitude of the business now?
Yeah, we've delivered over 800,000 orders. This week we're delivering just under 1,800. So that's what we do. We keep it organized by not having a million SKUs. We're not a grocery store. We don't want to be a grocery store. So we usually have about 200 SKUs on the menu. The variety is all because of the seasonality. Blackberries are just about to leave. And the big squashes are going to start coming in here in the middle to the end of August. So there's a lot of variety because the season changes.
So speaking of seasons, in a recent conversation, we were talking about the Southeast being in the U.S. being key to your business, and talk about the seasons and the reason for that footprint.
Yes, I don't see seasonal roots being in Maine anytime soon, and it is mainly because of the farmers. We know that we need to move into North Carolina, go down to Atlanta. We have a infrastructure, that we've spec'd out for handling the move, and we're going to grow neighborhood to neighborhood is a good way of looking at it. We're not moving from Richmond to Atlanta tomorrow. We're moving from Richmond to Raleigh. And there's advantages there because farmers know each other. So the farmers that we're using today, they know the farmers that we'll be using tomorrow, down in different areas. So, we keep on leaning on ourselves for items and taking advantage of that. And yeah, going south makes a lot more sense than going north. When I talk about Ohio, it's mainly because it is it's a breadbasket. There's a lot of farming there. It will be a shorter season, but it's close, and so that's why it's part of our target.
So, if I can, you're like a middle market company right now. I mean, you're not. This isn't a startup anymore. You've got millions, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking to expand the business. You're in the market to expand. We can't do a public solicitation for capital, but you are trying to raise some venture capital to grow the business, right?
Yeah, so we're the largest, farmers market is a way of looking at it, be it a static one or be it home delivery in Virginia, Maryland, and yes, we know how to scale it now. We know what we can do marketing wise to grow. And yeah, we're looking to expand. I mean, we're actively seeking funds right now to do that. And meanwhile, we're expanding in our current areas. Yes. Well, I was just saying, meanwhile, we're still expanding in where we are.
So while a lot of companies were contracting and going out of business during COVID, you had the opposite effect. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. We were just about to do a whole new marketing project about hands. So it was hand delivered, hand picked, handcrafted was what we were saying. And then COVID hit. It was like, there's no way we're going to the market talking about hands during COVID. We grew 133% during COVID. Now we knew we'd retract some of that. But we were making a real difference on both sides. I mean, we had a lot of people that were using us because they were too afraid to, go out of the house. We had a lot of people that came and helped us because, their jobs had closed down and they wanted to, make sure food was getting to their neighbors. And then I just had a farmer, it was Monday. Monday, I had a farmer talk about to me how much of a difference we made to him because all of his money-making sources went away. I mean, all farmers markets closed. And so, that was a real problem for farmers. And because we were growing so much, they were, thrilled to have us. And that is one of the reasons we're here is to give them another source of income. It did help in our brand awareness. I mean, there are a lot of people now that know who we are. And it solidified the industry. I mean, in a way, a lot of the things pre-COVID we talked about were about, the convenience of delivery and the freshness. But, but the convenience of delivery now, we don't talk about much because everyone expects it now because of COVID. I mean, everyone was getting things delivered with COVID. And so we all know what it's like and it's kind of an expectation. Now. So we do just focus and we talk a lot about our freshness and how we're local. We don't talk much about, the fact that we home deliver. So
you're not Amazon, but you benefited from the same type of dynamic that they benefited from during COVID. How is that? But talk about the differences, but then how you also benefited from the same type of kind of delivery phenomenon that happened during that time?
I think we were fortunate when we first started. We created a solid model because we're really not much different than what we were, and how we deliver. So we have I like to call it a hub and spoke model. And the advantage of that is when we grow, we just keep on adding to it. I don't need 50 trucks to deliver because I don't do the last mile. I mean, we have a very limited number of trucks. Amazon, the big difference, and it was a success for us, really. Amazon is very impersonal. That's what they do. So they're not trying to get you the best thing. They're just trying to get you widget X that you ordered over Amazon. Even during COVID, we were being very particular on our quality and trying to make sure that, we're exciting our members and keeping them very interested in what we do. And so that's a big difference between us and Instacart and Amazon. In fact, if you go to if you order from Instacart, vegetables, you just don't know what you're going to get, because those people that are delivering to you, they might not know what's good when they're picking it out of the grocery store, or they might not care. I mean, they're just moving widget X from one place to another. And I mean, that's just so anathema to what we do. And the people that we have, I mean, we're all trying to take great care and provide the best ingredients for people's meals. That's a big difference from us. But yeah, we all benefited.
In the conversations we've had, you're very specific about what you do and what you don't do. For example, you said we deliver carrots. And I said, well, why not blueberry pies? Because I thought, blueberry pie is something or an apple pie to the farmer's market. And you said, well, that's not really our sweet spot. Explain that.
Yeah. So because we're small, we're staying very niched. We've had restaurants ask us if we'll provide them with produce, and the answer is no. We don't want to get into the wholesale business. It's such a different business than what we do. We usually only have about 200 SKUs on the menu every week, and we have a cycle in how we deliver. And so, Friday the menu opens. The menu's open from Friday to Sunday. We're packing today. Things start coming in Monday. Then we pack today, we pack tomorrow, and we deliver Wednesday, Thursday, and then we just do it all over again. So we're trying to provide them with the best items, but not 10,000 of them. Because when you're doing this, you're going to fail if you have 10,000 items and you've got one-offs on each one of them. If you're talking blueberry pies, you might have 2 blueberry pies ordered this week, and then you got this one item of 2 blueberry pies that you got to make sure get out to things, where it's easier if you have 400 things of carrots. So yeah, we stay very limited in our menu, and I feel it's not a disadvantage at all, because we don't want to compete against Instacart and Amazon. We want to be unique and different. Our carrots are coming out of the northern neck. The winter carrots are one of my favorite things, because they're huge. They'll be 16 inches long and just enormous things, and they're the sweetest carrots in the world because they winterize them. These are small farmers, so they leave them in the ground until the ground starts to freeze, and they just get sweeter and sweeter.
So, Duane, for the venture capitalists listening, venture capitalists love predictable recurring revenue, and I understand you have a subscription service. So you kind of are a recurring revenue business. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. We consider ourselves a subscription service. And so our goal is not to, we're not even really focused on our revenue. It's about, it fluctuates, $10,000 every week. We're focused on our members' happiness, because we know if we keep our members happy, they're going to stay. And the longer lifespan we can get out of our customers, the better. So we focus a lot on Well, I've got a great example. We had a issue this week with green beans, and what happened is we couldn't pick them out of the field. We're trying to get you the freshest green beans possible. Anyone that lives over here on the East Coast, they're not. It's been raining. I mean, you just can't pick them. So then our question is, okay, how do we keep our members happy when they're not getting their green beans? And so we were talking about, the different things, and we've got policies around this, but the different things that we can do. And again, the reason is we don't want them to leave because they're not getting green beans this week, even though it's not, it's Mother Nature that caused that problem. So yeah, we're focused on, we call it weekly recurring revenue. We focus on order rate. People don't have to order every week. So, we focus on that. We focus on our average ticket. And then the overall thing really we focus on is happiness. So if we can keep our customers, the happiest customers out there, we're just going to keep growing, which we are. In fact, I mean, we're up 8% this year. We were up 14% in terms of members last year. We're growing. So
let's talk a little bit about the lifetime value of a customer for your business. Mm-hmm. Your customers tend to come on and stay with you for a long period of time. How does that work?
Yeah, so we've acquired 3 competitors so far. And one of the questions I always ask them is what their lifespan is of their customers. And 2 of them was 6 weeks and 1 of them was 3 months. Ours is 16 months. I mean, it's just a huge difference. We see that our customers, they usually don't leave. At the beginning, we have a membership fee. If you think about a subscription model, we're kind of like Costco on that side because we're not trying to take anyone to just come and try it. We want them to have decided that, hey, this is something I want to do and I'm committing for a year because that membership fee is for a year. And thus, then we can continue to work and make them as happy as possible, before that year's over and get them to stay with us and recommit the following year. So that's what we're doing.
It seems like you've taken, a technology company, like a e-commerce company, you've combined it with a very much, kind of the oldest school type of business you can think of, somebody setting up a farmer's market. Talk about how you marry the 2 of those and how you've made that work. And I imagine you've got to convince these farmers, hey, farmer, you got to be selling online. What does that conversation look like?
Yeah, that was really weird. When we first started, I called it, we were driving around on dirt roads, shaking the bushes, looking for farmers, and we went to farmers markets really is what we did. And we talked to farmers and their eyes would kind of glaze over on what we did because the concepts, unusual, and especially for them. The first thing we did is we pay them net 3, because we don't have accounts payables. Everyone pays with credit cards. So we have the cash 2 days after, our members have committed to the orders. And we pay the farmers that fast too, because we know that is a big win for them. I mean, net 14 sometimes they get, but net 30 is very common for farmers. And they're small, so yeah, we try, if you think about it, I mean, we're trying to take care of them as well in a lot of ways. That's something that we're doing.
So how do you expand this business that was just a local business to start to being a national business? And how do you maintain the culture and all of the special qualities that you've developed in this business?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Actually, it's a lot of personalities. It's a lot of who you hire. We don't hire someone. We just hired someone just recently. Is a good example. And one of the things we're always looking for is a tell. And the tell, what we're looking for is what is their interest in food. If they don't cook, first off, I mean, we don't want them. We want all of our customers, our members, to be able to cook, or not members, I'm sorry, employees, because our members all cook. And so this lady, she's a vegan. She has a, kind of a foodie blog. She's very focused on food, and so we're looking for that to keep our mission going. We also, like I said, we pull a lot from our members, so we're looking for people that are interested in what we do from that. And then when you talk about the expansion side, we have a whole procedure on how we expand, because it's hard. And so when we moved up into Maryland, it was very successful to move to Maryland, and we know how we did it because we'd done it when we moved from Richmond down to Williamsburg and the beach. And so we know how, when we moved down to North Carolina, we know how we're going to do it. Another thing that we do is that we have plans for what I call primary hubs and subsidiary hubs. Primary hub, Richmond will always be a primary hub, and we're going to feed people produce from Richmond as far as we can go. And so we're talking Raleigh, we're talking Baltimore. That's about as far as you can go, where a truck could go and come back. But then we need the subsidiary hubs. We need one, we're planning down, what is it? Augusta, Georgia. Is it Georgia in Augusta? Yeah. And what a subsidiary hub is that's where you're getting more of the local artisan goods. So, like we have meats, but, it's meat has a label on it. Meat's coming from a specific farm, unlike a carrot. A carrot doesn't have a label on it. So still local because it's coming from around here, but people really want to see their meats that are really close. Does that make sense? So breads are the same.
When I like a half a cow, I have friends that have farms, and a couple times I've gone in for half a cow, and it's always a weird process of getting a half a cow. You got to know somebody, and then you got to get on the list, and then you got to put your name in and your deposit to get the half a cow, and then they go to slaughter, and then you got to pick it up, and it's not a very streamlined process. So could the day come where I want to get my half a cow or a quarter of a cow or whatever, and I go on seasonal routes to do this?
Yeah, we've talked about it. We haven't done it, but we have definitely talked about it. But what you really want is you want a half a cow that's coming 100, 200 miles from you. You don't want a half a cow that's coming over the mountains. It doesn't. It's
yeah,
exactly right. So that's why we're trying to get those things that are labeled. And when we're down in Raleigh, we want to give them, Raleigh artisan goods, even though the carrot might be coming from, Southern Virginia. You're not so particular about that. If it's good and it's fresh, that's kind of the whole goal with the produce, is keep it fresh. But the artisan goods, you want them more, I call it hyper local right now. So that's kind of what we're doing. We're piggybacking down. So we're really working hard in Maryland right now. We're expanding, and we already know where we want to put that subsidiary hub up there, so we can start really being, having a lot more things that are Maryland things, providing up there for the Maryland customers.
So is this your first entrepreneurial venture, Duane?
No, unfortunately, this is my third. And I say unfortunately because the first one I did didn't work. And it actually was, so my background is software development and mathematical modeling. That's what it was called at the time. It would have been AI now. So I was doing a lot of modeling work for actually the defense industry. And then I got into designing something that was very similar to eBay. But I was in St. Louis, and unfortunately, this was almost pre-internet. It was just so early. Investors were looking at it and like shaking their heads. They didn't understand what it was and why. And I still have my eBay account, and it's early days, an eBay account. Because they did it right and they had the capital to really do it. And then my second one still exists. It's a design firm, so it has nothing to do with what we're doing. So this is my third. And, I guess 3 times, works. So I'm still here. I'm still doing it, and it's going very well. Of course, lots of lessons learned to get here.
Well, so as an entrepreneur, you know that if investors come in your business, they're going to want to have an exit. So what does that look like?
Yeah, in fact, it has always been in the plan is that, we're focused on expansion. We haven't taken any capital in a while. And all of the cash flow that we do get, our free cash flow, we spend on doing things to focus on the expansion. The exit, as I see, is we build this company to where it's expanding, it's plugging and chugging faster than where we currently are. That's why we're trying to do this raise so we can expand faster. And then something's going to come down the pike, and someone's going to be interested in doing something in a way that there's an exit. So it's just keeping this thing strong, keeping this thing growing until that happens. That's always been the plan.
So if folks are listening to this and they're interested in your business and what you do,
Mm-hmm.
what is the best way to reach out to you? And is it appropriate for a potential customer to come to you? I guess you got to be in your footprint, right? Then, you're only looking for accredited investors or venture capitalists, or if somebody wants to try to buy you. Who do you want to hear from, and how do they get to you?
Well, the venture capital side is definitely appealing, and so is the private equity. That's both sides that I think we're looking at. I'm not looking for.
You're getting up into private equity territory right now. You're growing enough.
Yeah, I think we are. Family offices are out there too. I think whatever capital we do find on this current round will kind of dictate how fast we're going to go. Obviously, with the expansions that we have, we do have plans to expand, and the reason I'm looking for capital now is because we have the potential of expanding very fast because of some other things that are happening in the market. And we'll just be slower if we don't get capital. Like I said before, we're up 8% so far this year in terms of membership. So, that's that's where we are. And then, investors can easily just email me if they want, and you can see is my name on that thing, or is it just showing
your name's on there, but your email.
So it's just Duane. It's just Duane at seasonalroots.com. We're talking to, all sorts of people right now, actively seeking funding. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm. So Duane, what are some things that you were hoping to talk about in your business or your journey that I haven't asked you about that I should have?
An interesting question. We can talk about some of the secret sauce things that we do have that I don't know if we mentioned. We can talk about marketing.
Yeah, please do.
We spend time marketing for acquisition of members and for retainment of the current ones that we currently have. And we really focus on the metrics. If you think of us as a subscription service, it's looking at the metrics, and you find what fits and works, and then you do more of that, and what's not working, you do less of that. So we have 5 successful marketing campaigns that we focus on. Some of them are more successful than others, but we do them all because they're all of them, the cost acquisition is it's much less than 4 times the lifetime value of a customer. Then on the retainment side, we're always doing things to try to retain customers. I can give you one example of that. I always in my head have a happiness chart, and they have to be so happy at a specific point of their journey. So like the renewal fee, you've got to be so happy when the renewal fee comes, like Costco, there's a renewal fee that you're willing to do it again. Now, a lot of people, they don't even see it. They don't care because they're happy, but there are those that, they're getting there and they're like, okay, I'm going to quit before I pay the renewal. So one of the things we do is we have a, twice a year, we discount the renewal fee and we say, up early is what we say. And so it's the point of which we're trying to get the dollar amounts low enough to where more people are happier. Does that make sense? And those are the kind of things that we do in our marketing. And then we analyze, did this work? Did it make us money? Did it lose us money? I mean, we analyzed for a long time on whether or not we should even keep the renewal fee, how does that work? And so, I mean, we're focused a lot on those kind of things, a lot on the metrics and a lot on, just making things better for our customers, better for our farmers. That's what we focus on. Is there any other things to mention? I know I said, I find it strange when I stand back and really look at the business. First, it's just so big compared to what we were when we started. I mean, we started with 2 cars and literally in my garage. I had 40 boxes sitting in my garage of produce when we started.
I think I met you back then.
But,
somehow, Duane, you were on the radar of the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year. If you remember, I think I met you at an Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year event. And this was years ago.
2017.
And so how in the world did you get on the radar of the EY Entrepreneur of the Year award when you had like a garage-based business? It just it's not something you see every day at those types of high-end events.
Yeah, it was interesting, and it was interesting to meet all the people that were there. I mean, it's just we're unique, and it works. We've got quite a few members that are still with us from the first year, which is interesting. There are some lifetimers here, even though our lifespan is only 16 months. So yeah, I'm very pleased with where we are. Yeah.
Well, I've known you since you were a startup, and now that you're a middle market company, I have no doubt you're going to be a big company one day, either slow or fast, depending on how much capital we're able to raise. It's been an exciting year.
Yeah, and here's another thing. I mean, we know that we work very well in the suburban dense cities. So, you talked about moving south, and yes, we're mostly moving south. And we've identified the 50 cities that we really want to move into. And so our calculations show we can make about 10 million a city. I mean, this can be a very large business. It's not, it's just a lot of work to get it there, and to get it there with as little risk as possible. That's what I think. And I think that's one of the reasons I am raising now. I feel like we really have reduced the risk immensely. So, anyone that invests, they're not, I mean, we already have revenue. We're already, we're doing fine. So,
well, 10 million a city is it's a lot of carrots. So
it is. It is a lot of carrots. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, Duane, I wish you the greatest success, and it's just a pleasure being on this journey with you, and I look forward to continuing it.
Yeah, thanks for the time. It's always fun to talk about, what you do and what your passion is.
All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
All right. Take care. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Bye.
See ya.